What's going on, everybody? So I'm making this video in response to a couple of things that have been going on lately, and that's just the perception of some of the things that I'm putting out there. So there's been some perception that a lot of what I do is either spiritual or mystical, or the things that, not that I do, that I speak about are spiritual, mystical. But believe me, there's no spirituality or mysticism that's clouding some of the things that I talk about. It may be perceived as spirituality, it may be perceived as mysticism, but what if it's just law? What if it's just a law? Meaning that the things that you hear, the Tony Robbins, the Joe Dispenzas, the Neville Goddards, the Earl Nightingales, the Secret, anybody you could think of, Bob Proctor, what's her name, Abraham Hicks, anybody that's out there talking about this stuff, what if there really is no mysticism? What if everything is just following a law? What if the law actually is that if you think of something long enough, what the right emotions and the right intent, that you could actually make it play on this three-dimensional screen that we call life? I mean, think about it. The car you drive because you wanted that car. And you say, well, I don't drive the car I wanted. Someone gave me a car, so I'm driving that car. So essentially you're telling me that you wanted a car, you weren't very specific on what that car was, and you were given a car, so now you have a car. And if that's not your scenario, just think about that for a second, because it happens. So there's no spirituality or mysticism. It's an invisible law that we are speaking about that's acting. They've proven it right now, that the space between me and this phone as I'm making this video is not empty. It's filled with something. It's filled with quantum atoms that are actually wave potentials that don't take form until you look at them. This stuff is science, guys. You got to look this up. So when I talk spirituality or I start saying things about God, let's just think of God as the creative power that we're all connected to that makes things come into existence in this three-dimensional reality. Remember, when you think about something, that something exists inside your head. So it exists. So whether you're an athlete trying to get better, if you can't create a clear mental picture of what it looks like of you being better, you can't get better. Practice all you want. Do what you want. Train with whoever you want. Do what you want. But if you can't create it up here, you're not going to get better. It's just a fact. It's a fact of life. The greatest baseball players talk about how they visualize their success before they go into it. Some of the things that I've noticed in my life where I was great is because I go into it with a confidence of a knowing inside your head. For some people, this analogy will work. Think about it if you're on a bike. Right? You could not ride a bike for 30 years. Maybe you're not that old, but you cannot ride a bike for 10 years, maybe 3 years. But you can get on that bike and ride it. But before you knew how to ride it, you couldn't ride it. You needed training wheels, then you needed dad or mom or somebody to hold you, and then eventually you're on your own. And then once you're on your own, you never go back to needing training wheels. How weird that is. Because what happens is once you learn how to do it, you create a clear mental picture that every time it comes time to ride a bike, you're able to manifest a successful bike ride. Because in your head, you know you could ride a bike. Because if you didn't know you could ride a bike, you wouldn't get on it. I know, I'm not confident, never really rode a motorcycle. I'm great on a bike, never really rode a motorcycle. I'm not getting on that thing and going on the highway because I can't create a clear mental picture in my head. But if I've been riding a bike for 5 months, I would tell you, no problem, I get on the motorcycle, I'm going on the highway right now, maybe pop a wheelie. So the idea is, the things that we're talking about may appear spiritual. You may hear the word God. They may appear mystical, and if they're appearing mystical, it's just because of a fear that I don't know where it comes from. I don't know. That's up to you to figure out. But this stuff isn't mysticism. Like you've heard me speak about things like the Kabbalah and research this stuff. These things are principles. They're just everybody's different words throughout time of the principles that we are to follow as we start to create. And this brings us to even deeper stuff. So if we're talking about our ability to create our realities, then maybe creating a healthy body is part of that too. Maybe me talking mostly to my friends and not so much on social media of how I don't really believe in the face mask and how I don't believe that some of these measures that are being promoted are actually the truth. Because I haven't gotten much into it, but the truth is the vaccine exists. It's called plants. It's called eating right. It's called taking care of your mind, body, and spirit. It's called doing the right things to see yourself as a healthy person. What happened in this last little pandemic? There was so much fear that was created widespread that if you weren't in a place mentally and physically to know that you can rise above, you fell suit to this. And it got some people bad. But what got people bad wasn't so bad, wasn't so much the virus, was more fear. and creating inside everybody this fear. So when we talk about these things, it's about creating a healthy lifestyle. And just so everybody knows, I came in contact with it as well. And nobody got sick like the post I put up the other day. And I'm sure you could put things of how it's this, that, and the third. Science or nothing. And now back to the issue at hand. Take care of yourself. Eat a certain way. Think a certain way. Feel a certain way. That's the keys of life. Whenever anything good has happened to you, it's because those things were aligned. So sitting here and calling me out for being spiritual or mystical or all these other things that have been said over the last couple of days is ironic, and it takes some self-exploration to really find the truth. I had heart disease, high blood pressure from 160s over 30s and 40s. I'm sorry, 160 over 44 was my highest to now 120 over 80. I had psoriasis on my knees and elbows, went away. What changed? My image of myself. And it changed through eating correctly. It changed through meditating daily. It changed by believing that there's a higher power that's in work that's creating all of this stuff. It changed because letting go of the ego and thinking I had to do everything. And this is coming from somebody that lost a lot. So these videos are going to keep coming up. But now it's time to step up. It's time to wake up. It's time to wake up. We're in a new consciousness. It's time to wake up. When you hear spirituality or you hear God or you hear mysticism, just know it's an invisible law that's working in your life. Take responsibility or not. Too much, what do? We look for answers. Oh, please help me. I've been there. Who's going to help me? Until you help yourself, nobody will help you. If you're an athlete, go get all the training you want. If you ain't doing the work on your own to take care of yourself and create a better mental picture, you're not getting better. If it's for business coaching and you're not looking inside yourself for what you could be doing to be better, but looking for somebody else to tell you the answer, you're never going to be the best. It's facts. These are factual facts. Because think about what the image in your head is, because you think in pictures of when you say, I need somebody else to help me. You're telling yourself that you're not good enough. But I know you are good enough. The point of a coach is to inspire and give advice. That's it. That's it. Because aspiring and giving advice allows for you to have new thoughts that you wouldn't have thought before if you weren't talking to somebody that offers this kind of information. The goal is for you to create the best baseball player or the best athlete. The goal is for you to create the best business person. Trust it. Trust me, I meant to say, because I've looked outside. There are no answers out there. Why do you think the speaking started to come this way? And do your research on any business person, any inspirational speaker. They're all talking about a law. Law. You understand that's law, 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 law. It means it happens whether you respect it or not. That's a law. Whether you respect it or not, if you jump off a cliff, you're going down. So you better have something to keep you up. But you're going down. You're going down. Because it's law. If you turn on your Wi-Fi reception and you're within an invisible Wi-Fi being out there, you're going to pick it up. Because it's law that if your phone is on looking for a Wi-Fi, it's going to find that reception. Just know that you need to turn your Wi-Fi reception on. And you need to start feeling what's around you and start realizing that it's always there. And there's no disconnect from it. And whether you're thinking good or bad, you're creating. And that's why there's no such thing as good or evil. Why do good things happen to bad people? Because it's a law. It does not discriminate versus good or bad. That's why. That's why. And who's to decide good or bad? You are. How do you know what's good or bad for somebody else? Come on, people. It's time. It's time to wake up. It's time to realize the truth as to what's going on here. It's time to realize that we are creators. We create our health. We create our success. We create our relationships. It's the things that we do. It's the time that we invest into these things. But who's willing to invest time into thoughts? Why would we invest time into thoughts? That's just a waste of time. It's a friggin' joke if you think that. Your thoughts create your reality. Your thoughts create your reality. Your thoughts create your reality. Which means that when you're creating your reality, you have the ability for me to see the reality you create, but it doesn't impact my ability to create a similar or like or totally different reality, or yours or anybody else's. Spirituality. Mysticism. Why don't we try law? And remember that everything has its own appointed hour. That your creation is a birth. and your appointed birth will take whatever amount of time it takes. But your devotion to make sure that you are doing what you need to do to remain faithful, right? If you plant a seed, it needs to birth into a flower. If you don't take care of it, it'll never get there. If you birth a baby and it's inside that body, you need to feed it efficiently. You need to eat efficiently. You need to do the right things, because if you are not feeding the baby won't make it. Everything follows these same principles. They need to be planted, they need to be fed, they need to be loved for, and they need to be accepted to be here whenever they're here. You wouldn't start ripping up the ground looking for your flower after you planted it one day. You wouldn't start asking a woman where the baby is a month later. You wait. You wait. So now wait. But realize that the answers are in you. And realize that what I'm talking about, whether you're an athlete or whether you're a regular person, a non-athlete, it doesn't matter. There are laws. The sooner we start to follow these laws, the better. And just because we know the law doesn't mean it's easy to follow. Reprogramming. This thing inside here is like a super quantum computer. It needs to be programmed and reprogrammed. Remember, a long time ago, you learned about hot, ow, 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 ow. Now, if you even think something is hot, you're wary about how you touch it, or maybe you tap it to see if it's hot. Why? Because in here, you remembered it. There's nothing to recall. You remembered inside here. That brain is always recording. Everything you think, everything you do. Just because you change your thoughts, I'm going to be more positive, which is not about positive or negative, and you do it for one day, and the next day, this crap doesn't work, I'm not going to do it anymore. How faithful were you? How faithful were you? Just remember, again, we talk mysticism. I like to research things, so research like meanings of Bible and the true story of David and Goliath, because real quick, we're not going to get too deep into it, but until someone can tell me where the burial ground of David is or the burial ground of the giants are, maybe, just maybe, that story was taking place in the mental world of man. And maybe that's what it was trying to tell us. And maybe it's telling us that Goliath is our giant thoughts and perceived hurdles that we have to get over. And maybe that little white rock that was being slung by David was actually a white rock of faith. And it's saying that if we stay true to our faith and we sling that little white rock of faith at our problems, our giants, our thoughts, that we could hit that giant right in the eye and knock him right out.